Hey everybody, it's Chad with Nobody Else's Auto. We've been buying a lot of cool stuff lately, so definitely click that subscribe button so you can stay tuned with all the cool stuff we've got coming up. Tonight, we're gonna go driving around in this really cool super cab four-wheel drive Dodge that I picked up recently. This is a pretty neat truck. There's some pretty interesting facts about it. The truck actually means something to me personally. I remember this truck from decades ago when I was a kid, and it's really unique the way it was ordered. So, let's take her for a spin. Definitely not the luxury pickups that we're accustomed to today. Especially one like this that's got a few years on it. Crank windows, not a lot of options. Just kind of your basic old trucks. But this one's kind of neat. When we get her shut down here in a little bit, we're going to learn a little bit more about this particular truck, but it's pretty interesting. This 1977 Dodge, I think, is a really unique truck. Now, for me personally, I've known this truck for 40 plus years. Now, you guys that have been hanging out with us on here for a while know that when I grew up, my dad dealt in old Buick and Pontiac parts, and he had a couple hundred cars stored in a little town called Galatia. That's about 25 miles northwest of where we're located at in Great Bend here with Nobody Else's Auto. So every weekend, basically every weekend, we were up in Galatia, and Dad ran it as a side business, and we'd go up and pull parts on the weekends. We'd maybe go haul a car, move cars, things like that. But that's where I basically spent my weekends for about 5 or 6 years growing up till we got older and got in high school and had activities going on. We were in Galatia every weekend. Well, there were some people that lived south of Galatia who had cattle north of Galatia. So they drove back and forth through town a couple times a day, every day, all those weekends I was up in Galatia as a kid. Now, what's relevant about that? We're sitting in the pickup that I watched drive back and forth through Galatia for several years when I was a kid. Yes, this was their pickup. Now, there's some really unique things about this pickup. Like I said, it's 1977, half-ton, four-wheel drive, club cab, short bed, which is kind of odd in and of itself. Back then, everything was a long bed. Today's world, you don't hardly see a long bed. But back then, a short bed was odd. And if it was a short bed, it was just a basic regular cab that somebody used for a runaround pickup in town, or possibly like a delivery truck. You never saw a club cab ordered with a short bed. To make this truck even more odd, this being a half-ton four-wheel drive club cab, they checked the box for the 440. So this is a 440 powered half-ton club cab short bed 4x4 77 Dodge pickup. Now, why in the world would they do that? Well, Jim, the guy that ordered this pickup, knew he was an old hot rodder. Dad actually bought an old Plymouth from him years ago that he had when he was younger, that he had the 361 all hopped up in. So at heart, he was a hot rodder. So when it came time to buy this pickup, I could absolutely see him checking that box for the 440. Now, we've actually got a little bit of the paperwork for this truck still here in it. We've got the original owner's manual, as well as the warranty card for this truck. Jim and Georgetta, Glacier, Kansas. Truck was sold new in Russell, Kansas, which is about 45 miles north of here. We look at the VIN number, we see that D for dog, designating the 440. Truck was delivered September 29th of 1976. So kind of cool to have some of this paperwork to go with it, even though I've literally known the truck it's pretty much its whole life. And of course the emissions control, which, you know, obviously was really important when you were ordering a 440. You had to worry about your emissions controls. And still has the camper loading specifications in here with the owner's manual. So I really dig this truck. Oh, another piece of paper in here that isn't in the truck anymore, but is so cool that it's still here, is their CB warranty registration card from when they had a CB in this truck. So Jim and Georgetta no longer with us. Knew him for years, bought several other trucks from him over the years, but of course he never wanted to part with this one. This is one they'd obviously had since new. I bought a 54 Chevy cab over and a few other trucks from him over the years. And this truck was actually sitting there in the farmstead, and he had just had the engine overhauled in it and the transmission went out. And he had it sitting there in the corner of the farmstead, but he's like, you know, I got to get the transmission fixed, get that back on the road, was always the story with this particular pickup. Well, a few years ago when we lost Jim, his nephew Terry ended up with the truck and had our good friend Martin overhaul the transmission in it, got it up and going, and he was driving the truck quite a bit regularly. I'd see him drive back and forth by the yard with it. He had it for a while and was moving on to another project, and he put the truck up for sale. And when I saw it up for sale, I was like, you know, I've known this truck for a really long time. Don't necessarily know what I want to do with it, but I've got the opportunity to own it, so I'm going to own it. So here's where we're at. So anyway, we've got this 77 Dodge. We see some modifications in here. Obviously, we've got blue bucket seats. I don't know if these are Ram Charger seats or whatever, but obviously not out of this truck originally. The console, I'm not sure if this is the original console for this truck, but it could have been. But I'm not real sure if this came in this truck or if it was added later. Carpeting has obviously been changed to some household type stuff with a little shag in the back. And this obviously, back in the day of, like we talked about when we were driving it, pre-luxury truck days. You want to put this thing in low lock, you got to grab the lever and do it. We don't have little buttons or switches. You got to grab the lever and you got to put her where you want her. This truck is just an old truck inside, obviously. It would need to be redone, but it's all the bones are here. You know, the dash is all still intact. It's had a few gauges added. I'm sure the original gauges probably quit working. It does have the original gauges in it, but I'm sure they don't work anymore. I do have a parts truck with a factory tack I could add to this if I wanted to. Obviously, we've got the club cab portion back here with the fold-out seats. Oh, forgot to kick the leg out. Yep, you have to manually kick your leg out. It doesn't fold out with it. Flop it down, and then you got a backrest that was attached to a piece of plastic that literally sat against the sheet metal of the cab. So, probably not the most comfortable seat, but there again, club cab pickups were essentially new. This was a 77. I think Dodge came out with a club cab in 72 or 73. Ford came out with a super cab in 73. So this extended cab pickup, this was a new thing at that point. So That's why it was definitely kind of different. And to order it with a short bed and a 440, kind of crazy. So anyway, let's get out and walk around this thing for a minute and check it out. Now, one of the first things most people are going to notice about this pickup is it does have a newer bed on it, which is okay because this actually came with a parts truck. It came with a 79 club cab, 4-wheel drive, short bed parts truck. You can check that video out on here as well. But it does have a good bed. So I do have a correct bed if I decide to go ahead and do this truck. So that's obviously one of the things that most people are going to notice right away has been changed and is definitely different. We look inside, this has had a toolbox fuel tank combination unit added to it. Has the old remains of the old NRA sticker in the back window still. Of course, definitely the iconic club cab quarter windows that Dodge used in the 70s. We see the wagon wheel style wheels on the truck over here as well. And it even has halfway decent tires on it, believe it or not. The Power Wagon badges on the hood. And up front, it's been modified with a massive pipe bumper. I mean, that baby is stout. You would not want to get hit with that thing. Under the hood, there she is. We can see they added Edelbrock valve covers to it. But like I said, Jim was an old hot rodder. So that's the type of stuff he would have liked to have done. The valve covers, the air cleaner, things like that. When they overhauled this engine, that's the type of stuff he would definitely add to it. Got a newer aluminum radiator. And the nice thing about it is everything is nice and straight and square. It doesn't look like it's ever been hit or piled up or wrecked or anything. So that's always a good thing too. Of course, it could have been in multiple crashes with this thing and we would probably never even know it. The grill, obviously these grills almost impossible to find. This one's got a few hickeys in it and some scratches, but it's not destroyed. Got a little dinghy over here from the side, but it didn't take anything up front head on here, not with this thing on it. As we work our way around the other side, kind of more of the same. It's got the little damage to the bed over here. It's got a little bit of rust in the front fenders, a little bit of rust in the door. But really, overall, not a terrible old pickup. It's kind of crazy to think this pickup is coming up on 50 years old and still really in pretty darn decent shape. I obviously got the newer style tailgate because of the bed, but I've got all that on the other truck. So anyway, what am I going to do with this thing? What's the future for it? What's the plans? I would really like to do something with this truck. Will I ever get it done? I don't know. I do know I bought a whole bunch of new old stock parts for it. A good friend of mine that when I used to work for Chrysler and Warranty Administration, a guy that I met back then, a good friend of mine, he had a Warlock he was always going to build. He actually sold the Warlock to a buddy of mine who resto modded it with a late model Hemi and a 6-speed. But he has all these new old stock Mopar parts that he ordered decades ago for that Warlock. Well, I bought all those parts. We're going to be sharing those with you as well soon here too. So I've got a bunch of new stuff for this truck if I decide to do something with it. I don't think it would be a very major resto project. I think you could at least, make a pretty decent truck out of it with some paint and interior. It sure seems to run and drive out okay. And a little cleaning, a little tweaking. So not really sure what I want to do with it. I know it's a super cool truck. I know I like it because I literally watched this truck drive back and forth through Glacier when I was a kid all those years. And obviously, if you can't tell, I'm pretty excited about it. I think it's definitely odd that a 440 was ordered in a half ton. It's very odd that it was a club cab, short bed, 4-wheel drive pickup. All the stuff that is commonplace today. Literally, I mean, a very, very high percentage of the trucks that are built in today's world are either an extended cab or a full 4-door or a short rear door 4-door, so it has an extended cab area with a short bed and 4-wheel drive. I would hate to guess, but I bet it's an extremely high percentage of the trucks that are built today come equipped that way, compared to the regular cab days of the 70s. So for somebody to have the foresight to order this pickup in this configuration, check the box for the 440, still have the original paperwork for it, and still be a fairly decent old running and driving truck, I think it's pretty cool. So I hope you enjoyed it as well, and I hope you think it's a neat old pickup like I do. But anyway, stay tuned. We've got a lot more cool stuff coming up. Like I said, I've been buying a lot of cool inventory. So definitely click that subscribe button, click that notification button. You can start hanging out with us on here on Nobody's Show and keep an eye on some of this old iron that we're finding. If you got any questions about the 2,000 cars and trucks we've got here on the ground at Nobody Else's Auto, just give me a call, 620-786-4428. I'll put that number in the description as well. We've got a lot of inventory here on hand with a couple thousand cars on 20 acres. So just give me a call so we can have a short conversation about what you're looking for your project, year, make, model, body style, the parts you need, or what you're looking for a project. We can get a lot done on a quick phone call compared to a whole bunch of incomplete texts and emails, so that's why I just don't do them. So anyway, there you have it. Super cool old truck that I'm obviously excited about and would really like to do something with. Gonna get those new old stock parts picked up, get that stuff sorted through, see what all I've got there. Obviously, since it was all ordered for a Warlock, there's gonna be a lot of step side bed parts in there that I won't be needing, but curious to see what's all in there because I haven't even gone through all of it. I know there's some really cool stuff in there, but I haven't sorted through all of it yet, so we're gonna be sharing that with you here once we get that stuff drug in. So there you have it, the 1977 Dodge half-ton club cab, four-wheel drive, ordered with a 440, local truck, sold 45 miles from here new, spent almost its whole life 25 miles from here, watched this truck for almost my whole life, and now I'm fortunate enough to own it. So thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned. We got a lot more cool stuff coming up, and we sure hope to see you on the next one.